So just how did you evaluate Saturday night and your guys' performance?
It's tough, obviously. Didn't execute as well as we would have liked or as we would have hoped, and didn't play well enough, in my opinion, on our side to win that game. I felt like the first half we were a little bit too passive, not as aggressive as I've seen us. I do feel like the second half we adjusted and played better, and we made some halftime adjustments that helped. I will say that the kids fought all the way through. Gave us a chance there at the end of the 4-minute situation. We needed to stop, get off the field. Just didn't make enough plays to give ourselves a chance there. So that's it's on me to get us prepared, to make sure that we're prepared going into that game. I thought we had a really good week of practice and guys were ready to go. We started fast that first series, and just kind of was a step slow on some things and some adjustments. Hats off to UTSA. It's a solid football team. We're well coached, got a good scheme. Like I said, we just didn't make enough plays there to put us in a position to win the game.
What allowed Franklin to go off in the first half? Obviously, you guys adjusted, but what allowed him to?
For a couple of reasons. One, I thought we had problems getting aligned properly, and again, that's on me and that's on us as coaches to make sure we're in positions to go make plays. And I thought we were just too passive, couldn't get off the field on third downs. I had some reads that we usually make, or I've seen us make, we just didn't do so Saturday. So we got to evaluate it and self-assess and have some self-accountability and flush it and move forward. We got a really good challenge in front of us in University of Virginia, and we're looking forward to getting out on the practice field tomorrow and playing another game on Saturday.
Brian, what kind of space is there before halftime to try and make adjustments? Because you did clamp down, especially on those slant routes.
Yeah. So we talk in between series, throughout the first half as a defense, like what were the issues, what were the problems, and try to get them corrected before we were back out there. And so we had a list of things that were causing us problems that first half. And so you get in at halftime, you put them on the board, you make sure you're on the same page as the staff, and then you go communicate to your unit on what those adjustments are, what you feel like things that we could do better, what the problems were and how to solve them, and then you go from there. And so like I said, I thought the guys did a good job of responding to that and recognizing what the issues were, and then going out and executing what we were adjusting to at second half.
With the pass defense, do you think it was more about not covering, or was it more not pressuring the quarterback, or maybe a little bit of both?
They went a lot of quick games, so they were trying to take our outside backers out of it. It seemed like just with some false reads and on the third downs, it was majority quick game, and so just the recognition of the down and distance where the sticks are, and some minor technique adjustments, and really just they in my opinion they played the second half from a coverage standpoint much like they played spring and fall in that first game. So we just got to lock into why that wasn't the case in that first half. I think those issues have been addressed.
Brian, what was the impact of losing Keith there on that second series? How did that change the rest of the game?
Obviously Keith is a great player and adds to the depth up front, and he's athletic as all get out for somebody that's 300 pounds. Luckily we got guys that can rotate in there and can hold the rope. But obviously, Keith keeps us fresh, he keeps us energized, and so obviously it hurts when you lose something like that.
Why do you think it was so hard to get off the field on third down?
Like I said before, just the awareness of the down and distance and some of the techniques we were playing. We just cleaned that up at halftime, and that allowed us to get off the field in the second half a little bit better.
You look at Virginia, they rolled against William and Mary. I'm assuming they probably didn't have to open up the playbook as much. Does that make it harder?
They still open up the playbook now.
Did they?
Yeah. Robert and I got a chance to work with him at the University of Arizona, my first full-time job. And, you know, he's the king of the designer of the weeks. You know what I mean? You see every different formation possible. You see every shift in motion possible. And he does a good job with his scheme. They got talented guys in there, and, you know, sometimes they'll have, you know, two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. And, you know, one of them they're both athletic, you know what I mean? And so you just kind of have to be aware of what personnel groupings on the field and what you're going to get out of those. So, like I said, I got a lot of respect for him as a play caller and a designer.
What are you getting out of Derek Smith 2 weeks into the season? What are you saying?
You know, he's big, athletic, he can run, he can tackle. You know, he was productive last night. You know, sometimes he can get a little too aggressive, but you know, I love him in our room and what he adds to the secondary, especially somebody his size and that skill set.
Adjustment-wise for guys in the star position, which is obviously new to this scheme, how do you feel like they're kind of adjusting to all of this stuff that's new? I mean, it seems to be changing each week for that position.
In terms of changing each week for that position,
In terms of just like adjusting to this new thing that they haven't done before and still kind of learning it on the fly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I thought Quan from an assignment standpoint, he was pretty assignment sound. You know, that position from an assignment standpoint probably isn't as complicated as you might think it is. You know, a lot of times he's lined up over number 2 to the field, and you know, based on what we got called, you know, that dictates what his responsibility is. But I'm glad that, you know, we got guys like Quan that can do that, because they're not only can they cover, but they can show up in the run game. So that kind of gives us some flexibility, depending on what personnel grouping is on the field.
How do you think your linebackers stepped up to replace CJ this week?
You know, I thought they did a good job. You know, obviously, you know, every position group had their moments, right? But you know, I think Tariq played well. You know, he was productive. You know, Kalen Tolson is another guy that is getting more snaps and is also productive. And so, you know, we'll keep getting better and keep improving every week. And you know, I'm looking forward to the challenge this week.
Started Saturday's game with another different look defensively with Tolson and Barnes both out there with Jake. Just when you can utilize that, what do you like maybe about that look?
Well, we've started that way because they start off in 12 personnel, so that's why you know, if they only have 2 receivers out there, I'd rather not play with 5 DBs. You know what I mean? So that's why we saw the three backers out there. So the previous week, if we'd got 12, you know, it was the same scenario. But you know, Tolson came on and CJ was out there as the sandbagger. So just that, you know, it's a matchup game. You know, if you got tight ends in the core that are there to block the run, you want your backers in there. You know what I mean? So
Coach,
let the cover guys cover and let the fighters fight.
Tackled well against Nebraska, but then this week it seemed like he had a few more missed tackles. Did that surprise you a little bit? And how do you address that with the guys?
Yeah, a little bit, and most of it was you know, alignment issues pre-snap that kind of get you in positions where you're not in a position that you're used to being in to go to in your entry point to go make a tackle. You know, I thought we lost leverage too many times. You know, setting the edge on the defense, whether that's the first or the second level or the third level from the crack replay standpoint. So those things that added to being in positions where you're stressed to make a tackle instead of being under control and having the right leverage point based on where your help is at.
Ron, obviously you had training camp to evaluate your roster and the team, but how much do you get to evaluate your guys during the game, and how different is that from training?
I mean, you know, live scenarios is the telltale, right? And so, you know, for us as a staff, it's okay. What are we doing well? What do we need more work at? You know, still, I got all the confidence in the world with the guys we got and what we're doing, because I've seen it since spring and fall and in that first game. You know, so you don't want to freak out and all of a sudden hit the panic button off of one outing, right? But there are questions that needed to be answered, and there are some things that from the staff standpoint that we can fix as well. And like I said, everybody's got to you got to learn from this, and you got to have some self accountability throughout the program, and then move forward and step on to the next challenge.
Brian, you mentioned alignment.
Talked about, basically, he felt like, he kind of talked about he wants to shoulder this all the blame for the second grade, and he's one of the captains of that.
Who's that?
Tony Adams.
Tony Adams.
So as a coach, how do you help him, I guess, accept responsibility, but not accept too much responsibility, and just, I guess, help him and the rest of that group just get through to the next game?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time, is how you're going to handle adversity, right? And, before the season, I said adversity is going to hit, whether it's within the game or throughout the course of the season because you lost the game. These are just one of those moments, right? So, the biggest mistake you can make is to not learn from it. So you gotta swallow your pride a little bit, and look in the mirror, and look at the tape, look back at that week's preparation, what were some of the things that we could have worked on more, what could we emphasize more, and then you move on so that you don't make those same mistakes again.
Brian, you mentioned alignment issues a couple of times. What do you think is behind that? I mean, do you have any after watching tape?
I think part of it is my fault in trying to do some things a little bit different. And part of it is just having the urgency to get lined up. So I think that again there's some accountability both ways there.
You mentioned you felt confident still in your D-line depth, even after keeping that out. Is that not something you feel like you still have to scheme around, or do you feel like you have enough quality individuals down that depth chart where you can rely on?
Yeah, I think depending on what key status is,
Right.
I still feel like we got quality individuals that can rotate the way we need to rotate, based on how many plays we're getting game. Coach Jameson's done a great job with his interior guys.
There you go.